Hello, and welcome back to Life.EV, your weekly dive into the essence of life's value explorations. That too right at the heart of the India's economic boom. So I'm your host, Ajit Panicker, sharing roles at Nova and Pureblu, where the entrepreneurial journey is a lived reality. You can join us every Saturday at 11 a.m. for conversations that go beyond business growth, delving into the ethos of value creation. So let's embark on this quest together, redefining success in business and life. And welcome to Life.EV, Life's Exploring Values. And as usual, welcome Vivek. How are you doing?
Very well, thanks, Ajit. How are you doing?
Absolutely good. So to our viewers, Vivek Asrani is from KMO, which is a leader in industrial fasteners, and he's known for his value explorations. Vivek has shared weekly insights at vivekasrani.com for 4 years. Enriching our discussion today is with his profound reflections, which he's actually compiled over so many years. Vivek also brings insights from his book, One Day at a Time, which is available on Amazon. And this book explores values in depth. Dive into this conversation with us on life.ev for a deeper understanding. So, Vivek, today's episode is on the journey. The journey is the goal. Let's hear your thoughts on this.
So, on the face of it, Ajit, the topic is a bit paradoxical. And, very often the first question I have received on this, every time I've spoken on this or discussed this, is so is it the journey or is it the goal? What should we be focusing on? And we typically end up viewing it as two different things. And I think what I've tried to do in the reflection which I've written and my own experience in life and in business is that there is a deep connection between the journey and the goal. And therefore, the title was The Journey is the Goal. So I think the fundamental underlying principle is that the result of whatever we do is a combination of our effort and circumstances. Effort is in our control, circumstances, being variable, are not in our control. And therefore, the result, by definition, even though we feel that we are the ones who've done it, is really not in our control because it's a product of effort and circumstances. So when we start focusing on the effort, then we are focusing on the journey as to how we are going to finally achieve what we have to achieve. The second aspect of this is that we need to, at some level, try and take a step back and find our fulfillment in what we're doing and the experiences we are going through. The issue is that we peg our happiness to the outcome, and therein we tend to find a disconnect between the journey and the goal. We do understand the journey will take us to the goal, but then we are so anxious and worried about achieving that we just forget enjoying the experiences that we're going through. The third thing is that the world, Ajit, sees us, appreciates us, acknowledges us for what we achieve. And somewhere we also get tuned into then living our life with wanting validation and appreciation from the external world. So then the goal and the achieving of the goal becomes the all important thing in our minds. But the second aspect of our life is what we see internally, not what the world sees, but what we are experiencing, which is how we are going through certain things. Now, the ability to also then start looking within and anchoring ourselves to enjoying how we are achieving what we're achieving rather than getting stressed about the future. And that brings me to the fourth point, which is that future results are nothing but current time action in a future context. So what I do now is going to have an impact in future. So I'm anchoring myself to the results, but the result is born out of my current action. So when I see the connect between that, then I realize that if it's the goal that I'm chasing, then it's this action which I need to maximize on and make the journey and the action as best as I can. And therefore, I have always argued that the journey itself is the goal as to how well we do what we are doing in the present moment.
Amazing. But it also from your discussions, the question that I keep coming is, okay, if it's a journey, then why are the rewards connected to the goal? Yeah. I mean, you're going to get rewards only if you achieve those goals. Nobody can say that, listen, you need to reward me because I tried it very hard. I had a great journey. I did my best. You don't get rewards for that. So how do you justify that? We reward only for goals. We don't reward for the journey. How does that get justified?
So that's, I think, a great question. Eventually, from an organizational standpoint, we all work with numbers. We have our budgets, we have our plans, we have incentive plans, and you're absolutely right. It becomes very difficult to incentivize somebody who's worked 10 hours a day, worked really hard, and say, okay, here's your incentive, even though you didn't achieve, what we did,
Yeah.
or what we set out to do. So, from an organizational standpoint, I get that. But I think you have to also look at it from a personal standpoint, that how do we incentivize ourselves by doing a job really well, even though sometimes it doesn't play out the way we would have expected. See, remember one thing: the mind cannot work in a vacuum. And the question you will then, which comes to mind, and you'll ask is, if the journey is important, then why have a goal at all? Right? The mind cannot work in a vacuum. So one is the mind needs to be inspired. So how do we get our inspiration? When we keep a goal in mind. Second is the mind needs a direction. Our mind is our biggest strength and our biggest weakness. If we focus the mind, there is nothing that we cannot achieve if we set our heart and mind to it. But if we don't give our mind a focus, it can go in all directions and can create enough chaos in our lives. So second reason for setting a goal is that the mind needs a direction and a focus. Third is the mind also needs something which it kind of is working towards in a forward direction. If the goal is too easy, even though it's a goal, the mind will be disinterested. It's like, this I can achieve and I don't need to pay attention. If the goal is crazily humongous and out of our reach, the mind will not even apply itself. So we need to set that balanced and a bit of a challenging goal so that the mind is engaged, happily engaged, with inspiration, with innovation, with focus. Now, having said that, and having set the goal, the next step is what very often we forget, which is we have to drop the anxiety and the worry about whether the goal will be achieved or not. It doesn't mean that we drop the goal. It doesn't mean that we drop the focus. It doesn't mean that we drop the planning. It doesn't mean that we drop giving ourselves a direction. But we forget the second part of the equation, right? That we have to now drop the anxiety. But because we've forgotten to do that and focus on the journey, we're so goal obsessed that that's the only thing that matters. And then at the cost of our health, cost of our happiness, cost of relationships, we may achieve what we want finally, but when we reach there, we may have reached in a slightly broken condition. So I think that's the connection between why the goal is important, and yet, having set the goal, why the journey becomes all important.
Interesting. So my biggest takeaway from this is, you need a goal to make that journey exciting. That's what it really
Yes.
means.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
make
yeah,
that journey exciting, you need to
yeah,
have a well balanced goal, and that's very
yeah,
important.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, Ajit, I'll put it in a simple metaphorical way, right? When we go on a holiday from point and we're driving from point A to point B, and it's a 3 hour journey, it's a 3 hour drive. Imagine if we were obsessed in reaching the second point in the fastest way, and we're always stressing, when will we reach? Will there be traffic on the way? Will the car be okay? What if this happens? Will there be some place to stop? Right? Will the place be open when I reach? And you're so preoccupied with that you don't look at the scenery around you. But what do we do when we go on a holiday? We actually say, wow, what a lovely drive we had. We just enjoyed looking around and taking in the scene. Don't we do that, right? So for us, the holiday is what? Not reaching that second place. It's the journey of reaching that place. And finally, we'll end up over there. So it's the
You
same
know,
with life and business.
absolutely. About a few weeks ago, I was having a discussion, and then this topic just came up, and a very interesting person, and he said, how do I make my life exciting? How do I make my journey exciting? And this is what he shared, and it's had a deep connect with me. He said, "Listen, Ajit, as entrepreneurs or as people, as you grow older, there are two attributes that you acquire, and as you age, you will realize that you don't know everything, right? You don't know everything. And on the other hand, you will also realize there are lots of stuff that you know. There's so much that you've learned, and there's so much that you are aware of. In both these attributes, what are you going to do with this? What most of us do is just take it to our grave, right? And
Mm,
that's not where it should be. These two attributes should not be there. So, in the journey of life, things that you don't know, learn, learn from others. It's an experience. And things that you've learned, share it, add value, make an impact. That's probably the way you could actually bring, even though you have a goal, you actually still make your journey very exciting. And I thought that was very profound in a way to put it, and especially when it comes from an entrepreneurial thing. Do you have such similar experiences from your life which you'd like to share?
yeah. So, Ajit, three quick experiences, real life experiences. So I want to start with something that happened to me in college, which is, I think, when I really understood this principle, even though I don't think at that age I was able to articulate it the way probably I'm able to understand and articulate it today. So, we have a youth festival. We had a youth festival in college in St. Xavier's, and it was called Malhar. And there was an event which used to take place in the canteen. And the prior year, there were lots of people, and things just went a little out of hand. And the college authorities came down very heavily on that canteen event. So it was pretty much almost shut down, and we fought for it and said, no, no, let's keep it alive. So I remember I walked into the office, the Malhar office, and I asked the then I was in my first year senior college, and I asked the then chairperson. I said, listen, I would like to volunteer. I'd like to do something to help out. So she said to me, she said, listen, this canteen events which used to happen is now really not allowed to happen the way it used to. We don't know what to do with it in a way. So do whatever you can with this. Just make sure that it's within the confines of being cultural and part of the youth festival objectives, right? So I said, okay. So there was zero precedent, zero playbook. I didn't even write, didn't know what to do. So the one thing which I did, and it was a 3 month process. I just focused on, I'm like, okay, there's going to be a stage, there's going to be people sitting over there. What would these college students like me who are going to be sitting there, what would they like, right? And I only thought about what are some of the fun and exciting things we can do, which are still, conforming to a quiz and music and something more cultural and literary rather than some abstract thing. And long story short, and I even called it open house after my favorite restaurant in those days. And it turned out, Ajit, to be something which was even beyond my expectation. And of course, it was a huge team effort by a lot of people. But when I looked back, the one thing which I learned and took away was for those 3, 4 months when I was working on open house, not one day, Ajit, not one day did I even stress about Will it come out well? Will it look good? Will it be received well? What will people think of me as a coordinator? I didn't even think about that once. The only thing I was thinking was, how do we create something fun, something creative? We did, for the first time in Bombay, something called Musical Housey. We did a mastermind quiz on stage with 500, 600 people sitting there, which was never tried before. So the journey of preparing it and delivering it was the biggest excitement of, and not stressing about those 2 days. So that was the first time I actually learned this connection between the journey and the goal. The second, example which I can think of is when I actually started the business. I remember I'd visited an international trade show, and I was like a little child in Disney World, all awestruck with all these, companies having their booths in this exhibition with all the products. And I remember, when I was sitting in the cafeteria, I just said to myself, I said, one day, I just hope I'm able to build a company where we can actually have a booth in an exhibition. That was the goal. And after that, I just forgot about that, but I kept that as my direction. We started building out the product lines. We started doing packaging. We started doing, and at the back of my mind, it was just the excitement of saying, one day I'm going to put this in an exhibition and stand at an international show and, show these products. And because I did it with that excitement rather than stressing about how it's going to turn out, it just catapulted us to a different level in business. So, I mean, these are two examples which, come to mind straight away. And the third is, we were putting up a factory and I had no experience. And I just focused literally for those 2 years every day on just thinking, planning, and getting it done. I stopped worrying about how will it turn out, what about this, what about that. And this has been my simple learning, Ajit, that whenever I've taken my mind off the anxiety of how it's going to turn out to the excitement of doing it in the now and whatever best I can do, uh, my reflections. It never started as the goal was just to set it out there, but then the journey of writing it every day became the excitement and not how many people would read it. And I stopped worrying about how many will read, will they respond, will they like. I'm like, I'm just putting it out there and I'm doing it with lots of love and joy. And that then became my goal, to just keep, you know, uh, sharing that. So yeah, these are some of the experiences I've been through, which have reinforced my connect and my conviction of this connection between the journey and the goal.
Amazing. So, to all our viewers, we are on episode number 9. And this is our journey of life. We just enjoy bringing it to you. And that's enough time that we have for today's episode. It was an interesting discussion for you to ponder about exploring values in life. Come on, guys. We are encouraging you not to just keep these ideas to yourself. Share this episode with your friends, colleagues, and family and start a conversation. Ask them, what do you think about it? Now, that brings us to the end of our episode, which is full of insights on balancing values with business growth. We're quite eager to hear from you. So engage with us on social media. I mean, most of you guys tend to send us a message on WhatsApp. Please continue to do whatever you are comfortable with, but share your questions on what you've learned. Your input is crucial in fostering an ethically driven business community. That's all for today. Join us next week on Life.EV for more on exploring values. And Vivek, thank you very much as usual for those insights. And to all our viewers, tune in next week for deeper discussions that guide our ethical compass. Thank you for listening and keep the conversation on values going with your friends. Thanks a lot, Vivek. See you next week.
Thanks, Ajit. Take care. Bye.
Bye bye. See you guys.